my name is Greg Hitchko, and what we have here is going to be a sweet little two-stroke rebuild project. It's a 2007 Kawasaki KX250. Did a bunch of researching on KSL, Craigslist, Facebook Market page. Finally found the perfect bike to do the project for. As you can see, it needs some loving and needs a little work, but I gotta say, I've got the two-stroke itch pretty bad, mainly from the Red Bull straight rhythm and guys doing all those project two-stroke builds. I'm motivated by Spencer Luzak and who else? Cole Seeley did a cool little build. You guys don't know, you should check these guys out, like Cameron DeMilla, Adam Paganelli, Jeff Walker. They're all doing pretty sweet two-stroke rebuild projects, and they've got me inspired to do one of my own projects. So here we are. But a little history on the bike. I'm the fourth owner of it, and the previous owner, he actually traded his old pickup truck for this little gem that we have right here. And the type of riding that he mostly did was sand dune riding and off-road riding in the trees, a bunch of hill climbs that he used to do. So he had the bike, actually, he owned the bike for a year. You can put completely new plastics on it, the black plastics, new seat cover. Looks like he shaved out the seat a little bit. Put the updated front number plate and front fender from the newer model Kawasaki's on it. But within that year, he seemed to beat it up pretty good. Got a bunch of scratches and cosmetically needs some help. Motor-wise, he had the top end rebuilt prior to last season. It was in the shop. He didn't actually do it himself. And when it was in the shop, the company said that it didn't need a bottom end rebuild because everything and the crank and everything looked pretty good in there. But you can never really truly trust what an owner is saying to you, especially with used bike sales in this type of condition. So I'm going to do a complete motor teardown and rebuild it back up from the bottom up, replace bearings, crank, everything in there. So it's going to be pretty sweet. I want this baby to be fresh when I go to start it in the spring once I'm done with the project. So guys, what I'm going to do now is actually walk you through the entire bike as it sits in its current condition, basically from top to bottom, back to front, and so you guys can see the complete transformation from what it is right now to what it's going to be in the future, and I can't wait to get started.
Alright guys, so we are back in the garage, and we're going to take a deeper dive into what this KX250 has to offer us. Check out the current condition. We'll start from the rear tire first. So, a little closer look on inspection. This thing is whooped. It has seen better days, that is for sure. Not sure when the owner last replaced it, but it needs a new tire. Chain and sprockets here, if we zoom in a little bit, chain is definitely whooped. Slack, ton of slack in there. Sprockets cupped out. If we come down actually and look at the chain guide as well, if you can see this, check it out. It looks like the chain has worn completely through that guide. So that's something that will definitely need to be replaced, and we'll get a cool one on there. As far as the rear wheel goes, I don't think it's really too bent. We'll kind of rotate it for you guys and see what's going on. Doesn't look too bent, looks pretty straight. But then as far as the spokes go, I mean, there's definitely some loose spokes in the bunch here. Let me get a better view on that. Oh yeah, they're really loose and shaking on it. So that's something I'll have to do, is get a new spoke kit for it. Coming up underneath, you can see that the bike actually hasn't been washed. The owner didn't care to wash it because he stated that they didn't have water to wash it, so I'm not really how he washed it in the first place. But coming in, we got a nice FMF turbine core 2 silencer on this thing, and if you notice way on the inside, we're actually missing a bolt. It's not even lined up, and on the top bolt here, there's actually some wire that's holding it on. And that is exactly how I got it. All shaky and loose like that. Coming over to the end cap, looks like it's going back into the canister, and I can actually pull it out a little bit. I'm not really sure what's going on there, but definitely needs some TLC. I'm gonna get all new plastics for this bad boy, but looks like the mud flap here has seen some better days. Doesn't look like the hub is in really too bad condition, actually. Scrolling through it, once I get this bad boy all cleaned up, I'm gonna repaint that and make it look brand new. Moving on to the front half of the bike here. Get into the motor. If we zoom in, doesn't really look like there's many leaks at all, which was a plus with this motor. I went to go look at another Kawasaki and it was just all goopy and oily up front there. Looks like we zoom into where the reed valve is. It's looking a little crusty. I'm gonna get a V-force reed for it anyway and replace that bad boy. But carburetor, a little gunked up, not too crazy, so that's not too bad. Doesn't look like there's any cracks in the frame, which is nice, which I inspected pretty thoroughly. You don't want to pick up a used bike and have the frame all cracked, which would be pretty unfortunate. Coming on the back side of the radiators, they look like they're in pretty good condition, actually. Not bent or anything, which was nice. So moving up to the top of the bike, looks like we got the Jeff Emig ODI grips on here. And lever looks like it's been severed off. He did say he flipped the bike over when he got it, so clutch is pretty hard to pull. The clutch adjuster, man, this thing is hard to move. Wow. I'll be getting a new clutch cable for that, but it seems pretty crusty. So we actually have the Renthal 7/8 bars, but it doesn't look like it has a crossbar on it. So what I want to check out now is actually the front wheel. Believe it or not, this wheel is actually the Bridgestone from 2007. It's dry rotting. You can see the knobs are just completely gone off of this thing. The rim I thought was pretty straight, but scrolling through it, man, look at this big dent in here. There's looks like I'll be getting some new rims for this bad boy. Alright, I got the bike flipped around and we're going to take a look at the other side of this bike. Starting from the back first, get a better look at this rear tire again. Just completely shot. The Sedona has seen better days. Coming over to the brake system here, we got the rotor. Under inspection, doesn't look like the rotor is bent or anything, which is pretty nice. The caliper, this caliper guard is broken off, so we'll need a new one of these. Looking at the chain adjusters, you'll see that the bolt isn't even hitting the axle block here, so, and then this nut isn't even tight against the frame. For someone who said they were actually mechanically inclined and knew what they were doing, doesn't look like they really knew how to adjust the chain. So moving on to the back rim, seems pretty straight, but once again, since I'm replacing the front rim, I'm going to replace that rear rim as well. What's the best part of this bike, I believe, is this awesome sticker that says still gonna send it. So clearly this kid is not sending it anymore. So along with the silencer, that's just completely not even bolted down and super loose and wiggly. I can't believe he even rode like that. I'll come over here and check out the side panels. They're not completely bolted down right. The back end, the rear fender seems to be moving and wiggling around a bunch, so can't wait to get that taken apart and inspected and see what's going on there. So suspension looks like it was done by a company called Shock Therapy. I think they're out of California if I'm not mistaken. Swooping down to check out the linkage underneath. I'm sure we're gonna have to take those bearings apart and grease that linkage, because I mean, I can't imagine that was done anytime soon. Alright guys, so you know how I said this pipe was wiggling up top here when I move it? Yep, well check this out. If I just wiggle this a little bit, it literally just pops right off. That is not good. So some bolts definitely missing. and some negligence for the actual condition of this bike. I still don't even know how this kid rode it, to be honest. So moving out, it does look like he's got the FMF factory pipe on there, which is probably the nicest thing on the bike. However, coming in, you'll notice that it's got some dents in here, especially this big boy dent underneath. So I'm gonna try to work to get those out. Maybe I'll buy a new FMF pipe or Pro Circuit. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with it. But moving on to the other side of the motor, water pump cover doesn't look like anything's leaking. Moving into the sight glass here, the training oil actually looks pretty clean and is at the correct level. So it looks like he changed the oil on the bike. It's a good sign there. But as far as cosmetically goes, man, you can just see the scratches on the shrouds. Come back and see the scratches on the side panel here. It literally looked like he just hit every single branch as he went through the woods. Moving on to the front forks, again done by Shock Therapy. You can see this little ring of oil. Those fork seals are blown, so they need to be replaced. I plan on taking the forks completely apart and doing that. Okay, what I want to check out now is actually take this seat off the bike and inspect what this air filter looks like. It's actually probably one of the things you guys should do when you're looking at a used bike is take some tools with you and take off the seat, which I actually didn't do. I didn't take my own advice, but let me go ahead and take this seat off and see what's going on with this air filter here. Okay, toss that seat to the side. Coming in, and man, does this thing look like it needs some help. This guy, who knows when the last time he cleaned this air filter was. Wow. It is so dusty in there. This is really bad. Luckily it hasn't done anything to the motor, but man, put a new air filter on this thing would probably breathe. That thing is so caked. Wow, that needs a replacing.
Alright guys, so that's the breakdown of the Kawasaki. Can't wait to dive into this thing next and really start tearing it apart. But at least we all know what the current condition is, and it is pretty beat up. So, like I said, stoked to get this project underway. Until next time, part 2 coming up soon.